It is inspiring, a game changer. This is where we need to be. And we export this meat show everywhere.
Nigeria courts investors in livestock development, taps JBS ranch concept for inspiration.
This book, therefore, is an access card to the next phase of hearings in the court of public opinion.
True accountability starts when leaders document their decisions. Vice President Shatima challenges public servants at unveiling of Adoke's memoirs.
Mr. Governor, I must say that your gesture has not only revived several dashboards, but you have given a new lease of life to many families.
Kano retirees breathe easier as state government clears nearly half of 48 billion naira benefit arrears.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. The tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
A simple yet profound moment that resonates deeply. That was the artist Haina Koli singing the first stanza of the national anthem, Nigeria, we hail thee, with pure, unwavering devotion. In that brief viral moment, I saw more than a performance. What I saw is a reflection of the love for country that lives within millions of Nigerians. Tonight, we carry that spirit, the spirit that Anna Koli reminded us of so powerfully, understanding that the story of Nigeria is ultimately written by love and action of its people. Hello and welcome to Network News. I am Juma Yusuf. Benny Adams is on business news for tonight, and Francisca Bella is standing by to bring us some news in the world of sports. Remember, you can watch our live stream on your mobile device and on the go on any of our social media platforms. And while we are still caught up in the ambience and unifying power of patriotism, let's bring you our question for tonight's poll. Tonight, we're asking you to take that commitment one step further by joining our national conversation on accountability. We ask you tonight, should the National Assembly pass and legitimize a bill compelling individuals to disclose the source of unexplained wealth? Tell us what you think about building a future free from the shadow of corruption. For this survey, your vote is your act of patriotism. Now we go live to Rio de Janeiro, and State House correspondent Musbao Nawahab, who is traveling with President Bola Tinubu since the president's latest diplomatic engagement to St. Lucia and Brazil. Musbao, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jumai.
Okay, now the president has clearly been busy since he traveled out. And on this round of diplomatic engagements, can you offer some clarity on other pending itinerary before the president returns to the country?
All right, Jumai, the major issues and major events have been attended to from St. Lucia to Brazil, Rio here. All the events have been held, and just to cross the T's and dot the I's of bilaterals now, which the president is attending to, particularly in the bid to woo private investors, Brazilian private investors here, particularly the JBS group of company that has been talking with the country about coming to Nigeria to invest in livestock sector, and that is basically what is happening now. And the president is also seeing some other private investors here, which will bring a lot of investments and opportunities to Nigerians in days to come.
Okay, Musbao, it's always a pleasure when the president is out there, and when he says Nigeria is ready for business, we know he's ready for business. Now, stay put while we take your reportage on the delegation dispatched by the president to the JBS ranch there in Rio de Janeiro.
Beyond series of conference room discussions, this is another delegation to ascertain seriousness of a potential partnership. From the area view, the delegation, including governors of Ogun, Niger, and Benue states had a sense of what to come.
Bago, you get work, you get serious work.
Touching ground on the J&F farm, a subsidiary of JBS Group located on the Araguaia Valley near Brasilia, the reality dawned on the delegation.
Look at this, they be like elephant too.
Sitting on 3,000 hectares of land in Aruana, this is not just a farmland, but a colony of cattle, and not just a business, but an economy of its own.
All the cattle is tagged individually, and we control everything through the tag. How many kilos they convert, how many days they are in the yard, about the health and the protocols, the vaccines, everything.
With majority of Nelore and a crossbreed of Angus and Nelore, about 95,000 cattle bred at a different location are brought here for proper feeding for 120 days.
It's 3 rounds because it's 120 days on feed. Go another group of cattle 120 days. Go on another 120. So you turn 3 eyes. So not 94,000 head of cattle times 3 eyes. So it's going to be about almost 300, 260, 250,000 head of cattle.
Under Pivot's irrigation system, crops are grown on the farm to replenish the silages of feed for the cattle.
It's not just the corn, it's
The leaves and everything.
yeah.
In operation with progression spanning over 20 years, the company now has a record of global biggest exporter of beef.
This cattle here go to one of the largest beef plants that we operate here in Brazil, that is 60 kilometers from here, and we export this meat to everywhere. We export to Europe, we export to China, to South America, to the Middle East, to many different countries.
Is a demonstration of what the Fulani people are doing. They can be put here, food will be brought to them, and they are fattened and sold. And this is a cycle of 120 days. So you have 3 cycles in a year. The ecosystem is huge because you're going to be cropping corn, you're going to be cropping sorghum, you're going to be cropping sugarcane, grasses.
This is inspiring. It is inspiring. It's a game changer. This is where we need to be.
So it's going to change the entire ecosystem of our herdsmen. It's going to do away with prices,
Insecurity.
Security because of farmer-herder crisis. If you're able to have this ranching and have cattle in a controlled environment, it takes care of so many different things. It brings employment to our youth, as we know, industrialization, food security, because if we're able to produce all this protein, even a foreign exchange earner.
And now, with discussions between the company and the Nigerian government in final stages, the delegation leaves the Araguaia Valley with a renewed hope of the possibility of replicating these achievements in Nigeria. And until then, the cowboys say goodbye. In Aruana, Brazil, Musbao, Nanwahab, NTA News.
Interesting, Musbao. I like the fact that they look like elephants. And Musbao, do you have an idea of when the president will be back in the country?
All right, Jubai, all things being equal, the president should be back this weekend. Nigerians should expect their president this weekend.
Okay, Musbao, State House correspondent, thank you so much. We expect him and we wish him a safe trip back home.
Thank you.
Now, the presidency says President Bola Tinubu has never stopped issuing 5-year multiple entry visas for U.S. citizens. A statement by the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga. The presidency reveals that on assumption into office, President Tinubu's administration directed that Nigeria implement all bilateral agreements with other nations and adhere to the principle of reciprocity in diplomatic relations. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and other senior government officials will continue to engage with the United States to address the unfavorable restrictions in a just and fair manner that reflects mutual respect and partnership that exists between Nigeria and the United States of America. The presidency reiterates that the U.S. government's claim of reciprocity as the reason for its current visa policy towards Nigeria does not accurately reflect the actual situation. In the spirit of cooperation, mutual understanding and partnership that have characterized the relationship between Nigeria and the United States over the decades. Federal government says it will continue to dialogue and engage with U.S. authorities to resolve any issues that have led to the recent developments. Back home, Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for transparency and accountability in Nigeria's public service, urging former and current public officials to summon the courage to document their life and stewardship while in service. He stated this at the public presentation of OPL 245, the inside story of the 1.3 billion oil block, a memoir written by former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mohammed Bello Adoke. It was at the Shehu Musayir Adwa Center in Abuja. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
OPL 245, inside story of the $1.3 billion Nigerian oil block, authored by Mohammed Bello Adoke, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice during President Goodluck Jonathan, has a subject of discourse over allegations of corruption. But this book gives further clarifications.
It focuses on the OPL 245 in an extensive and comprehensive account of the allegations about his role, the burden that he has had to endure in terms of what he calls clinical persecution, or the lies and more lies, I'm quoting him, that were told against him and his eventual vindication.
Let me use this opportunity to urge all of us to be conscious of the fact that power belongs to God. The best anyone who is blessed with the opportunity of a public office should do is to commit to that assignment and use the opportunity to uphold truth, justice, and fairness.
But this book and the broader discourse it contributes to is not just about the oil block. It is about how Nigeria governs its resources, how decisions made in government echo through generations, and how public officials must balance legal clarity with national interest even when under pressure.
The 271-page book with 5 parts and 26 chapters was unveiled in Abuja, recalling on events in the oil block story that led the author to go on exile. And today, after all the hurdles, his last word is forgiveness.
Permit me to say, Your Excellency, that I've forgiven all those who have hands in my ordeal. With the public presentation of this book, sir, I say boldly and clearly that I admire the courage of Ibrahim Mustapha Magum in coming forward to make up with me, to apologize to me, and to empathize with me for the role each and every one of them played.
There is no final adjournment in the pursuit of justice. There is no permanent discharge in the reckoning of history. We have always been summoned, not by a judge, but by conscience and by posterity. This book, therefore, is an access card to the next phase of hearings in the court of public opinion. The pages of this work will inspire debates. They will provoke rebuttals. They will ignite fresh investigations. These conversations will take place in drawing rooms, in lecture halls, and in the columns of tomorrow's newspapers.
Other speakers at the event acknowledged the bold steps taken by the author to give his own account in this compelling book on one of Nigeria's most contentious oil deals. In Abuja, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the federal government has called for immediate and unified action to close Nigeria's widening skills gap, describing it as a national priority critical to economic transformation. Vice President Kashim Shettima made the call during the 6th meeting of the National Council on Skills at the Presidential Villa. Again, let's join State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila.
The Council's mandate to develop a strategic workforce capable of meeting Nigeria's evolving economic demands And this sixth meeting of the Council is to discuss on a proposal for the review of existing skills training centers across several ministries, departments and agencies of government to align their work and functions with the national development goals.
Our previous meetings have laid important groundwork, and I am confident that today's deliberations will further solidify our progress, bringing our diverse perspectives and expertise to bear on these important matters. Our collective wisdom and decisive actions are essential for unlocking the full potential of our human capital.
The Vice President described the session as an open forum where positions were aired and important decisions taken.
The federal government will harvest the youths from the subnationals to train to ensure that the quality that we need is given to them, and identification of the specific type of skills that we need in Nigeria.
What we're doing in this council, led by the chairman, vice president, is to really give the high quality education that impart as citizens looking to get technical vocational skill training, the best and high quality to make them useful.
I want to assure you that the organized private sector of Nigeria is willing, able and ready to collaborate with the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to achieve the laudable objectives of His Excellency, Mr. President.
Presentation was made on the National Artisan Skills Acquisition Program, an initiative aimed at training 10,000 artisans annually in high-demand construction trades to formalize Nigeria's informal artisan sector by providing certification and onboarding qualified artisans into a digital artisan marketplace. A major highlight of the meeting was the proposal for a national skills infrastructure audit to create a centralized database of all training facilities, verify their functionality, and identify gaps. From the State House, Brahman Jibrila, NTA News.
We'll pause for some messages. The news continues in a moment. Thanks for rejoining us. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, is engaging information commissioners who are members of the All Progressives Congress to strengthen their communication capabilities as ambassadors of renewed hope policies in the state. The platform is the Conference for Commissioners of Information put together by the Progressive Governors Forum holding in Minna, Niger State. Sailu Abdullah Gwanara reports.
The federal and state governments might have different policies and programs. The bond here is for the country's #1 spokesman to compare notes with those with similar responsibilities at the subnational government, equip them with more facts and figures about the successes of the Renewed Hope 8-point agenda that is on a steady move into the second half of its first-term mandate.
You are in the forefront as information managers and those who have the responsibility of interfacing with the people at the grassroots. You must go back home with renewed energy, armed with facts, stories, and strategies to effectively mobilize your people to take full advantage of the promise of the renewed hope.
Representatives of the state governments have pledged to be dependable ambassadors of the renewed hope to sustain positive transformation.
In our present context, governance is not only measured by policies enacted or infrastructures built, but by how effectively those actions are conveyed to the people we serve.
The theme of this meeting, strategic communication and policy alignment, is timely and critical as we navigate an era that demands clarity of purpose.
The commissioners for information are expected to return to their states with more knowledge about government policies that will boost their communication prowess. In Minna, the Niger State capital, Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara, NTA News.
In the meantime, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, is reassuring the Nigerian media that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is media-friendly and will continue to be so if journalists remain steadfast in addressing adhering to professional conduct. He gave the assurance when he received the National Executive of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Again, let's join Salu Abdullahi Gwanara.
Like the slogan of the government, renewed hope, the editors have acknowledged the renewed management of government information under the watch of Muhammad Idris, devoid of controversies. Nigeria Guild of Editors, in solidarity with the strategy that is stabilizing the nation's media ecosystem, have presented proposals on media laws reform as a commitment for collaboration.
A couple of laws which are overlapping, both in the penal code and the criminal code, and we felt that instead of having duplication of some of these laws, they should be harmonized. We have recommended the repeal of some of them.
Be assured of our support and partnership always to ensure that all that is required of us to make the media robust and to also continuously to be objective in our jobs.
It's important that all of us come together, government and the media, so that we can have the kind of society that all of us so desire to have. You can't, in your attempt to criticize government, also try to bring down the roof of the house. We are all Nigerians. We must have a country before we even have the Nigerian media. This patriotism, reporting with that sense of patriotism is critical, even for your job. It is the best editor, someone said, is the one that knows what not to say.
He promised to engage with relevant stakeholders and harmonize ideas to give the proposals on media laws reform the required attention. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara, NTA News.
Now let's bring you up to speed with other news, starting with the health sector, as the Presidential Initiative on Unlocking the Healthcare Value Chain, PVAC, and the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development are collaborating with Spark Global to train and empower African scientists as part of efforts to address the continent's health needs. National Coordinator of PVAC, Dr. Abdul Mukhtar, says the collaboration will ensure local researchers are empowered across the value chain. The initiative will also enhance research, development and innovation capacity to tackle prevalent diseases across Africa, while catalyzing Pan-African collaboration to drive the socio-economic objectives embedded in the value chain.
Our main goal from this is to expose our scientists and researchers to the best capabilities out there in the world, to mingle with the best scientists across the world. And our scientists are really also, many of them are world-class, but there are some constraints here and there. So I think that forging that collaboration so that they can learn, they can be trained, and they can have access to wider networks, resources that they can mobilize going into the future for additional work and for building some of the capabilities that they need in their scientists.
The program is embedded within a 2-year program, which provides mentorship, which provides access to investors.
I'm looking forward to sharing our know-how and beginning a long-term relationship with scientists in Nigeria and in Africa.
And back to Niger State, this time on health. We hear this year's Nurses Week is throwing up discussions on knowledge gaps and competitiveness of health workers through evidence-based practice and innovation. Fatima Aliu reports.
Nurses are one of the major components of healthcare delivery systems across the world, as they play critical roles in healthcare and are often the unsung heroes in treatment, especially during emergency response. This year's International Nurses Week celebration serves as a platform to recognize the indispensable role of nurses in the health sector, foster professional development and strengthen unity within the nursing community. The theme, Our Nurses, Our Future, Caring for Nurses Strengthens Economies, was a call to action for governments, policymakers, healthcare administrators and the public to recognize, value, protect and invest in nurses training, improve working conditions and welfare to secure a healthy and prosperous future for all.
The government as well as health care stakeholders should invest in nurses so that nurses will contribute their quota adequately and appropriately in improving the life of Nigerians.
We are promoting a deliberate effort to ensure that we train our healthcare workforce. In that light, the state government employed over 1,500 healthcare workers, more than 50% of which are nurses.
Stakeholders believe that with the continuous rise in the healthcare cost, which is projected to reach nearly 20% of GDP by 2032, the efficiency and effectiveness of the nursing workforce is critical to economic sustainability. Fatima Ali, NTA News.
And in Jigawa State is in what is being described as a bold new chapter in Jigawa State's development. Governor Umar Namadi has reaffirmed his administration's strategic commitment to overhauling the educational sector and reviving the state's economic infrastructure, most notably the Mega 3 Free Trade Zone. Mohammed Askira reports that this was during separate strategic meetings with stakeholders in the education and Nigeria Customs Service at the Government House in Dutse.
The Jigawa State government is strengthening its partnership with the Federal University of Technology, Babura, to champion a technology-driven, vocational-based education system. Governor Namadi, while receiving the university management team led by the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Balaside Aliu, described the university as a strategic partner and announced key investments, including the construction of staff quarters and internal road infrastructure. In a major boost to technical education, the governor revealed a 20 billion naira upgrade of the College of Vocational and Technical Education and plans to establish 8 centers of excellence for hands-on training across the state senatorial zones.
I've introduced what we call a Mothers Forum. This forum is one of the first things of its kind, where we gathered mothers in each school environment, we train them, we mentor them. And the essence is to ensure that mothers are the ones that are closer to their children. So we try as much as to mentor them in the sense that they will make sure that every day they prepare the child early enough to go to school and make sure that the child stays in the school.
Meanwhile, Jigawa's economic revival plans also received a boost with Governor Namadi reaffirming commitments to the full activation of the Migratory Free Trade Zone. During a meeting with the Nigeria Customs Service, Kano Jigawa Command, the governor emphasized migratory strategic value and announced that the government had fulfilled key licensing and resettlement obligations to support trade and attract investment. The Customs Area Controller Alhaji Abubakar assured the governor of immediate readiness to commence operations. From Dutse, Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
We'll take a break now. When we return, business news will be up with Benny Adams.
Oh yes, this is News at 9. It's that time we talk business. Now, coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria's extension of deadline for the Bureau de Change operators to recapitalize on or before 31st of December 2025, Iowa Economic Forum is appealing to the federal government to consider extending the implementation window and to support the formation of regional investment vehicles to help smaller operators meet the new requirement. The chairman of the forum, Ibrahim Shehu Dandakata, said while the CBN's intention to strengthen financial integrity is commendable, there is the need to make sure that smaller BDC operators are protected. The chairman warned that the hike could force thousands of BDC operators out of business, especially those in long-standing hubs like Kano, Abuja, and Sokoto, many of whom cannot meet the new threshold.
We strongly recommend extending the implementation window to be a continuous exercise or a minimum of 6 months to 12 months to allow for investor sensitization, capital mobilization, and regional collaboration.
Give us an open door where we can access funds, just like the banking industries are doing today.
And now taking a look at the energy market, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, that is OPEC, the World Oil Outlook 2025, which extends projections to 2025, paints a picture of sustained global oil demand, with developing economies like Nigeria leading the growth. OPEC estimates that around $18.2 trillion is needed by 2050 to meet oil demand, with more than 80% allocated to upstream activities globally. For Nigeria, this implies a continued need for investment in its upstream sector to maintain and potentially increase production to capitalize on this projected demand. The WOO 2025 also expects oil to retain the largest share of the energy mix in 2050 at almost 30%, with oil and gas combined remaining above 50% between 2024 and 2050. In summary, the OPEC World Oil Outlook 2025 to 2050 generally paints a picture of sustained global oil demand, with developing economies leading the growth. And a look at the stock market today. The Nigerian equities market sustained a 7-session winning streak, the first of its kind this year, adding 1.76 trillion naira to investors' wealth, with market capitalization at 78.73 trillion naira. Today's data shows 44% improvement in volume, 78% improvement in turnover, and 15% improvement in deals. On the aggregate, 130 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 70 gainers and 10 losers. And looking at the numbers at this time, the top trade as of yesterday, Access Core, being the banking stock, was at number 2, but today it is at number 1 spot, having traded 174.2 million volume of shares, valued at 3.9 billion naira, which makes Access Core the highest both in volume as well as in value. Second is ICO with 81.9 million, trading at 165 million, talking about that value at this time. Then Jopo Gold is 74 million, valued at 245.2 million. On the losers chart, in Diamet, 9 naira, Legend Internet, 7 naira, 21 kobo, IMG, 34 naira. This is it on business at this time, Jumai.
Thank you so much, Benny. Now, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says the establishment of more tertiary education institutions in the country is meant to provide a lifeline to the more than 2 million Nigerian youths who have difficulties securing admission each year. He gave the pointer at plenary Thursday when the Senate passed 8 bills for the establishment of more federal universities in the country. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
Senate, as the consideration of reports on the bills, noted that education, aside being one of the key priority areas of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, as evident in his prompt assent to such legislations, it is also of significance in efforts to reduce insecurity.
There is no year that we do not have over 2 million Nigerian children unable to secure admission to tertiary education after every JAM. So today, what we have done will reduce at least by 50% the number of children roaming the streets and searching for years to have higher educational opportunities. And this, in turn, will stop them from being lured into acts of criminality that will be inimical to the progress and development of this country.
Senate also passed the bill to establish a training institution for the Nigeria Police Service Commission.
That is the civilian aspect of the police establishment. And you will know that their primary duty is, 1, to recruit, to handle promotion, and to discipline. If you are not well equipped, it means you will be recruiting unqualified, incompetent people that cannot serve well in the police force itself.
In another development, Senate has resolved to impress on the President to approve payments of compensation to the family of Mr. Fidelis Omoria over the death of his 2-year-old son and the younger sibling who sustained injuries to the eye following a shooting incident involving an operative of the NDLEA in 2023 in Asaba, Delta State.
200 million naira only to Fidelis Omoria as compensation for the death of his 2-year-old son and his younger brother who was shot in the eye that may result in him going blind.
Senate paid tribute to the late former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Chief Agunwa Anekwe, as it urged the federal government to immortalize him. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And now to Kano, where the state government has cleared 22 billion naira out of the 48 billion naira backlog owed in retirees' gratuities and death benefits. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf disclosed this during the launch of the fourth tranche disbursement, amounting to 6 billion naira to retirees and families of deceased workers at the Kano Government House. Abdullahi Mustafa has the report.
It is a moment of joy for another set of Kano senior citizens and bereaved families as they get set to receive their long-awaited benefits. For the fourth time, Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has approved the release of additional funds to offset outstanding entitlements. This latest disbursement amounts to 6 billion naira, reducing the backlog of unpaid benefits from 48 billion to 26 billion naira. Among the recipients is Ibrahim Adam, who confirmed receiving his credit alert, bringing renewed hope to many who have waited for years. The disbursement has drawn praise from labor leaders who commended Governor Yusuf for his continued commitment to welfare of workers, retirees, and bereaved families.
Mr. Governor, I must say that your gesture has not only revived several dash hopes, but you have given a new lease of life to many families. This initiative...
Governor Yusuf reassured that the remaining balance will be cleared in subsequent tranches, emphasizing that no pensioner or bereaved family would be left behind. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
Minister of Steel Development Shuaibu Abubakar Audu has unveiled the federal government's plan to resuscitate all legacy steel assets in Nigeria. This was during a media engagement with journalists in Abuja ahead of the National Steel Summit designed to explore investment opportunities in Nigeria's steel sector. Ekene Ndulue reports.
Nigeria reportedly spends about $4 billion annually on importation of foreign steel products. 2 years into the renewed Hope administration, Minister of Steel Development says federal government has set in motion processes to reverse this trend. He says partnerships on revamping Ajokuta steel plant and supporting other private steel plants in Nigeria are already producing results.
The Orbit Fabrication Galvanizing Works Limited, a member of African Industries Group, has also commissioned the 50,000 metric tons galvanizing plant, which I personally commissioned, valued at over $100 million, amongst other new investments into the sector.
The minister further invited industry players and the general public to the maiden National Steel Summit, slated for 16th to 17th July, to critically assess the state of the steel industry. In Abuja, Ekene Ndulue, NTA News.
We'll take another break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. More than 1 trillion naira is said to be lost with the collapse of CBEX recently. This is why the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and stakeholders are meeting to tackle virtual asset and investment fraud as part of activities marking the 2025 African Union Anti-Corruption Day. The report.
Investing in virtual assets and other forms of investment is not fundamentally a crime because it creates opportunities to make money and the scope of making payments faster and cheaper. However, there are some that are unregulated and have the potential to be a Ponzi scheme. With these trends on the rise, stakeholders are finding ways to address the menace. To achieve these, the EFCC is marking the 2025 African Union Anti-Corruption Day with a public lecture with a theme, Understanding Virtual Asset and Investment Fraud. The aim is to create awareness on the ills of corrupt practices.
Our findings showed that fraudulent politicians are already perfecting schemes and hiding their loot in cryptocurrencies to beat the investigative darkness of anti-corruption agencies.
The report of 2024 reveals a 45% surge in financial fraud cases,
with 70% of losses linked to digital channels.
The lecture is equally a platform for stakeholders to brainstorm and come up with policies that will not only protect Nigerians, but also regulate these virtual assets.
Our joint efforts are aimed at ensuring that virtual asset-related activities are conducted within bounds of the law.
We are unable to properly determine exactly what it is and where the regulation is situated.
The National Orientation Agency, we believe that value orientation is our most powerful tool.
The African Union Anti-Corruption Day is celebrated on July 11th every year.
And it's now time to bring in Francisca to tell us the latest in the world of sports. What's happening?
Thank you, Jumai. Of course, a lot is happening in the world of sports. Let's begin from Morocco, where the Super Falcons of Nigeria are taking on their counterpart from Botswana in the second group match of the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The 9-time African in the other group match played earlier this evening, Nigeria and Tunisia drew goalless in their North African derby. Now, Nigeria Super Eagles have dropped one place in the latest FIFA World Rankings, sliding from 43rd to 44th, despite a series of promising performances in recent international matches. The drop sees Nigeria maintain their position as the 5th best African team, but still trailing Morocco, Senegal, Egypt and Algeria. Regional rivals Ghana and South Africa continue to languish further down the rankings. At the summit of the global chart, Argentina retained top spot, followed by Spain and France, while Brazil remained outside the top 3. Still talking football, the 2025 WAFU Zone B Under-20 Boys Cup kicked off in a thrilling fashion as the Black Satellite and the Flying Eagles of Nigeria played out a pulsating 1-0 draw in their Group A opener in Pram Pram. Ghana took the lead in the first half through team captain Aziz Misbah, who fired a thunderous shot into the roof of the net to send the home fans into a frenzy, but the Flying Eagles responded strongly in the second half, and their persistence paid off when Abdullahi Mohammed rose highest to meet a corner kick with a well-timed header.
Boys are also defending so well at this moment.
Coach Desmond, I told you, and that is the equalizer from the young Eagles of Nigeria. I saw it coming, and they are paying homage to Diego Jota.
In the 3. Now, to tennis. 5-time Grand Slam champion Iga Swiatek demonstrated that grass court prowess by storming into her maiden Wimbledon final against American 13th seed Amanda Anisimova. The Pole kept her cool in the extreme heat in West London to reach her 7th major final with a 6-2, 6-love victory in just 72 minutes against 2021 Olympic champion Belinda Bencic. Meanwhile, Anisimova stunned world number 1 and title favorite Aryna Sabalenka 6-4, 4-6, 6-4 to reach the Wimbledon final just 2 years after walking away from the sport. Well, that's the size of our package. It's back to Jumai.
Interesting news in the world of sports there. And now to the result of our online survey. Nigerians appear to have shown an overwhelming support for the unexplained wealth bill, with 82.9% of you saying yes, meaning the National Assembly should pass this bill and compel disclosure of unexplained wealth. 17.1%, however, project no. So what we see is a deep desire for transparency and integrity in our nation, and that is a good sign that Nigerians want things to work. And that's Network News for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I am Jumai Yusuf. Good night.